Hello, I'm Jacob E. And today I'm going to be doing an introduction to atoms for junior high and upper level elementary students as a part of the Rigatoni Postbots. Alright, what are atoms? Atoms make up all matter in the universe. You're made of atoms, everything around you is made of atoms, and they also explain the states of matter: solid, liquid, gas, plasma. And they're actually extremely small. You couldn't see them no matter how long you stare at your hand. They're so small, even the most powerful microscopes in the world can barely see them. Just how small are they? This is how many atoms are in a few things. Raindrop, there are that many atoms, which is crazy. The average person has 7 octillion atoms in them. And then the Earth just has 133, so many zero atoms. There's so many atoms because they're so small, and they compose everything in the universe. Atoms also explain states of matter, which are the arrangement of atoms determines an object's state of matter, which are, the first one is solid. So solids are when atoms are closely packed together, and they don't take the shape of the container they're in. Some examples of solids are wooden planks, bones, doors, cardboard box, car. Most things you would think of are solids. Tables, you are mostly solid, at least the things you interact with yourself, like your hands and your legs. And you see in this diagram, the atoms, which are represented by these little spheres, are closely packed together, and it makes a rigid structure. All right, next up are liquids. And in liquids, atoms vibrate and flow, and they take the shape of the container they're in. Examples of liquids are water, of course, milk, orange juice, flowing lava, gasoline, blood. And you'll see in the diagram these little atoms right here, which are little circles. They're taking the shape of the container that they're in, and they're loosely bound together. They're very uneven. You know how the solid was all packed in? These are just uneven. They're flowing in the container that they're in. Next up, gases. Gases have molecules that vibrate and move freely, and movement creates separation between the gas molecules. And molecules, if you didn't know what they were, they're groupings of atoms together. So the groupings of atoms together move apart from each other, and some examples of that are air, carbon dioxide, smoke, water vapor, and helium. So as you see in this, they're floating away from each other, they're moving fast, and they take the shape of the container they're in, but in a more 3D way. Like if you had gas trapped in a bottle, it would fill up the bottle. And just like on Earth, gas fills up our atmosphere. Next up, parts of atoms. And atoms are made of 3 types of components: neutrons, protons, and electrons. And despite this, over 99% of atoms are composed of empty space, which is kind of hard to wrap your brain around, but because these things are so small, even the things that make up atoms are so small that 99% of them are empty space. So these little things are really powerful, though. That's why they make up everything that we see, even though they're 99% empty space. The first thing we'll look at is the nucleus. Nucleus is the center of the atom, and this is where protons and neutrons reside. A proton is a part of an atom that is positively charged. And you might be wondering, what does charge mean? Charge is just a fundamental thing of an atom or an object. And it's a pretty complicated concept that you'll get into as you move up in your education. But just for now, protons are positively charged is what you need to know. So how I remember they're positively charged: proton, pros and cons. Pros are usually the positives. So, and the amount of protons in an atom determines what element the atom is. I'm sure everybody here has heard of the periodic table. So the amount of protons that are in something or in the atom determines what box on the periodic table they are. If something has amount of atoms, there'll be a different element than something that has less or more atoms. And protons reside in the nucleus. Next up, neutrons. A neutron is a part of an atom that has no charge. This one is probably the easiest to remember because neutrons are neutral, and neutral means not either way. So they have no charge. And they reside in the nucleus. And this means that the charge of the nucleus is always positive. Because if there's no charge combined with something positively charged, it's going to be positively charged if you look at the whole thing. So, and finally, we have electrons. Electrons are the negatively charged part of an atom. And electrons aren't in the nucleus. They're orbiting around the nucleus in something called an electron cloud. So if you think about it, in this analogy right here, the Earth, think of it as the neutron and the protons in the nucleus. The moon is orbiting the Earth, right? So if you think of the moon, and everywhere it could be around Earth, there'll be some electrons. So they're orbiting the nucleus. And electrons are much, much, much smaller than neutrons and protons. Much smaller that in scientific applications, we just call its mass basically zero. It's that small. All right, that's it. There's much more to do with atoms, but that was just a brief introduction. I hope you learned something today, and I hope that this made you a little more curious about atoms. Thank you for watching, and check out our other videos on this channel. Get some good STEM education from people such as me, Andre, and Stone. Go ahead and watch those. Thank you for tuning in.